They're hiding the truth from all of you. The aliens are real and they're hiding in Area 51. I've seen them for myself. Elgyem, one of my favorite Pokemon introduced in Generation 5, and just about the definitive alien Pokemon. Well sure, we had Deoxys 10 years earlier, but we finally got a proper alien Pokemon that isn't a mythical. Sure, there are some other candidates that we've already talked about, but when it comes to lore, design, and execution, Elgyem and Beheeyem are a pure celebration of sci-fi goodness. Inspired by typical pop culture depictions of aliens, surely this is a Pokemon that came from space. Well, as you may have guessed, the answer isn't that clear. I think we sometimes take for granted that there's literally evidence of Deoxys coming from outer space in the Delta episode cutscene. When it comes to every other Pokemon, we need to rely on the Pokédex or anime, though the two are different canons. In the case of Elgyem, design-wise, it clearly is meant to look like a gray alien, the typical depiction used ever since the mid-20th century. We see this in the Japanese name Le Gray. The English name is also interesting, being a phonetic version of the acronym LGM, which stands for Little Green Man. In the same way, Beheeyem is supposed to be like BEM, which stands for Bug-Eyed Monster. The Japanese name also references that acronym. At first I was never the biggest fan of Beheeyem's design because I liked how sleek the previous form was, but I've come to like it a bit more, because the shape is meant to look like it's wearing a hat and coat, resembling the trope of Men in Black, often associated with stories of extraterrestrial sightings. Many people who claim to have encounters with aliens also mention being visited by mysterious men in black afterwards, supposedly government agents, attempting to keep them quiet, or in other interpretations are aliens themselves disguised as humans. So that's what Beheeyem's design is meant to be. A feature that both Pokemon share are the lights in the fingers they apparently communicate with. Strange lights are also associated with aliens and mostly UFO sightings, but as a means of communication, it could be a reference to the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Overall, I think these two knock it out of the park when it comes to the design. They definitely look weird, but still fit in with Pokemon. This was the idea with the rest of the Generation 5 Pokédex, and I'm happy with these filling the niche that they did. And like many other Unovan Pokemon, they represent some important and iconic parts of American culture. There have been stories of alien sightings across the world, but with the United States being relatively young, there isn't the same mythology you would see in other countries. In the 19th and 20th century, we find cryptid sightings, from Bigfoot to Mothman and the Flatwoods Monster. And mixed in there are aliens. You may remember from the Deoxys video I brought this up. So Elgyem and Beheeyem are really a celebration of that culture, which nowadays is just about the kitschiest thing possible, but I dig the wacky vibes. The point is that for a region like Unova inspired by the United States, it would be crazy not to have aliens. Though imagine how funny it would have been to expand into other cryptids. Now that's $1 million idea for a monster collecting franchise that would totally work out in the end. But the design and inspiration of a Pokemon isn't always enough. Sure, they look like aliens and talk like aliens, but what does a Pokédex say? Well, there's no outright proof, but I'd actually say that it's looking pretty good. In the debut games, we're told that it's a recently discovered Pokemon, first being sighted 50 years ago, linking it to a UFO crash site in the desert. Every other entry highlights these psychic abilities with how it messes with human brains or television signals. But I think the mere fact that it is a Pokemon that hadn't been discovered until recently is what gives it the most credibility. For other Pokemon like Clefairy and Staryu, sure they resemble stars and folklore has developed around them, but they were still like any other Pokemon at the end of the day. We know they've been on Earth at least 200 years with Legends Arceus. In the case of Elgyem, we have a definitive point in time that it was first observed by humans, which wasn't even all that long ago. Sure, it could have been a species living on Earth that just went unknown for all these years, but imagine this happening with an animal in the real world. A newly discovered animal in an area with reported alien sightings that doesn't appear in the fossil record and is all happen within your grandpa's lifespan? Sounds fishy to me. I find it funny that even though Ultra Sun is the one Pokédex entry that put the most skepticism on this claim, it was during this time that we got the Mystery Files Pokemon Special website. These are funny little Japanese-only websites that they would put out occasionally that are normally presented as if in the actual world of Pokemon. This one focuses on various conspiracy theories and mysteries with a Hex Maniac, a scientist, and a Ruin Maniac going back and forth. And here is where Elgyem gets quite a bit of attention. Of course, there's nothing confirmed here, all just done for flavor based on Pokédex entries. Overall, the website does skew a little more toward the conspiracy theories, given that we as the player would know most of them to be true. For Beheeyem, most of the Pokédex entries focus on its ability to manipulate memory. This is another reference to various stories of alien encounters, where victims would be unable to fully recall what exactly happened. And in Sword and Shield, there's a funny bit about Double disappearing whenever Beheeyem are around, calling back to stories of animals also being abducted by aliens as well. That is where we stand with the video games. Over in the anime, as I've discussed before, they'll just confirm anything. So Elgyem actually appears pretty early on in episode 30 of the Black and White series. Here we follow Ash, Iris, and Silent as they see something weird in the night sky. The next morning, they meet Professor Icarus, who's researching UFOs and is attempting to build his own, though just one powered by propellers instead of dark matter. What they saw last night was the smaller prototype. We find out that there's an Elgyem living with him that he found one night. There's a cute little relationship between them as Elgyem is shy at first, but grows to trust the professor, who now aims to help Elgyem get home, which has been theorized to be outer space. There's a cool detail about how Elgyem can give visions to anybody and often does so to warn them, and of course Team Rocket shows up to steal the Pokemon and they're defeated. By the end of the episode, there's a nice little moment where Elgyem communicates that it would rather stay with the professor, with details about how it can show people visions of outer space, and there's a stinger at the very end with an actual UFO. It's basically confirmed that at least in the anime canon, Elgyem is an alien, much like Clefairy back then. We first meet Elgyem in episode 45, where it's under the ownership of some weirdo and the two of them put our heroes in a crazy dream adventure. I think this is an okay episode, mostly focusing on the mental manipulation Beheeyem is capable of, but there's nothing I'd like to mention for this video. But later on in episode 133, our heroes arrive on an island that faces an entire alien invasion with Beheeyem controlling everybody. It's a really cool idea for an episode during the big filler arc, because it really dips into the alien invasion trope, one of the largest scale things we've seen for alien Pokemon in the anime. They are just straight up confirmed to be aliens, having a ship that's stranded after a crash landing. I think it's cool, especially with how Ash, Pikachu, Jessie, and James are the only one unaffected and have to team up. Once they encounter them, the Beheeyem take control of Meowth in order to communicate, something we've seen before in the franchise. This is where we learn that they just want to get home and need a piece that fell off their ship, which happens to look like an amulet coin. Also, apparently the reason Ash, Jessie, and James were immune to mass hypnosis was because they're stupid. But during the end of the episode, Team Rocket goes back to being villains, attempting to take the power source for themselves, and they're thwarted as usual. And so now Beheeyem can power their ship and return home, wherever that may be. And Ash is the only one who gets to witness it. So yet again, the anime is where some Pokemon are definitely aliens, meanwhile the video games aren't as confirmed. But with this episode and those Pokédex entries, I would say it is a lot more likely, at least more so than Clefairy and Staryu. And so I'll say that Elgyem is an alien. Well, let me know what you think in the comments below about the two alien Pokemon, and if you believe they're actually extraterrestrials. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I can't get over the fact that they're only recently discovered. For now, I'm very happy with the research for this investigation. Perhaps there's even more out there. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators. First name, last name, Yo Saxon, Brian H794, Johnny, Skyprince777, Olivine Branch, Malguy, Draco Hunter, JP, Jackson at Prone, Who Else But Zane, Q-Task, AliveR360, Starved Rock 314, Mobile Empire, Boatloads of Dope, Juan Moran, Sebun, King, Wafers, Alex Switch Shiny Hunts, Tyler Hopper, Lockadox, Koi13, Cemetery Hill, Cosmo Zero, Cheez-It62, GatorKid509, TF, Mathaclock947, Taijirai, Justin R, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes early videos, as well as our monthly members podcast, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I'll catch you all later.
Poke trainers, prepare yourselves.
What Pokemon is that?
Your friends cannot help you.
No available data.
Your Pokédex cannot help you.
Pokemon unknown.
Are you strong enough?
Bring back my Pikachu!
Your challenge awaits this weekend with 2 all-new Pokémon episodes only on Kids WB.